initiative and then other people start clapping, I think everybody should, you know, express their gratitude with sincere clapping. Because if he starts the clapping and then you guys... Yo, Ricardo, can you give Brian extra point because he really initiated clapping really properly.
Thank you,
I really like that. Really sincere. Whoa, I've never seen a clap like that. Fabio can also get an extra point. He's clapping like I've never seen clapping. Can you hear it, Ricardo? Can you hear it? Yeah, give him an extra point. Yeah. Up to ratio. He gets an extra nut. So I'm really proud of what I did here. Like, okay, that's good. So yeah, I really like how they are independent critical thinkers, and yeah, they just take initiative and such, clapping as such, the technique, quite impressive. See, like you get to learn a lot of stuff here, aside from making money. It's priceless. This knowledge is priceless. I'm challenging anyone that thinks that, you know, they're more intelligent than me, anyone, come at me. I just got a message, a notification that Oscar is watching porn, hentai porn on my PC. You think you're gonna fuck with a thing? Shit's about to go down. He doesn't know what's coming at him. I'm gonna set an example. Code Red, get your fucking weapons. Go, let's fuck shit up. Get fucking money, get Marius as well. Shit's going down. Cool. You see? That's how we do here. Logic as a core value. We really respect people, we appreciate them, and we enforce the rules.
Now there's a new subreddit. So do you think everything before was a troll? Or do you think he just lost so many arguments that he, like, gave up and made it all a troll? Who knows, dude? Maybe we'll never know. And now it's the Real Talk podcast. Holy shit. I think he realized it wasn't going to catch on, so he decided to pretend it was a troll all along. Oh, yeah, maybe. Bam. Beautiful. Do you think? I wonder how the people who hardcore clicked are thinking right now. Oh, what they're thinking. Who knows, mate?
I came across this on Reddit, and it makes a very compelling argument.
Uh-oh.
Do you think there's any chance of something like this happening?
Oh, the balloon thing? I don't know, dude. Oh, where's that 9/11 guy? I keep...
Sawar, I totally knew that the Athene thing was a troll. Those were just ironic donations I made to him. I can get those back, right?
All right, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Destiny, how you going, man? Sorry. Just got to turn your stream off so I don't hear any echo.
Oh, shit. Wait, what are you still doing awake? Are you another Britbonger?
No, dude, I'm in Australia, man.
Oh, that's like the same thing. Okay.
Oh, fuck off, man. Nowhere near the same thing. Come on, man. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon here.
Damn. All right, what's up?
Not much, man. Yourself. Other than to everyone's dismay in chat, it's not going to be a big conspiracy chat, so...
Wait, what was the big conspiracy supposed to be?
I'm just saying people, just because of the name, they think I'm going to come here and, you know...
Oh, and meme
tell
about
people that
conspiracy theories and
9/11 was
shit?
CGI or something.
Oh, gotcha. Well, that's good. I'm glad you're not going to do that.
But yeah, let's start off. What were you doing when you first heard about 9/11? Were you at home? Were you on your way to school? What was going on?
Damn. How old are you?
I'm 22.
You're 22. I'm 28. When 9/11 happened, I want to say I was in fucking 5th grade, maybe 6th, 7th. I was in either 5th or 7th grade or 8th grade. I don't know. I was in school, and yeah, I was in class, and then they announced it, and everybody was. It was kind of a surreal morning, I think.
Did you guys get a class dismissed or anything like that, or?
No, we carried on with everything. Some of the teachers were very agitated. There was people had like radios and everything in all the different classrooms because they were trying to listen to the coverage. I guess we didn't have like internet and TVs everywhere, but it was a lot of radios and yeah, people listening to updates and whatnot.
Well, it was about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night here, and I would have been in grade 1 or 2. And I remember my mum worked a late night job, and we were waiting to go pick her up from her job, me and my dad. And I was flicking through the TV channels, and I went on one of our news channels. And me as a kid, I saw it. And the first thing I did was I ran into my parents' room where my dad was laying down. And I said, "America's under attack," or whatever. And then if memory serves me correct, my parents didn't even let me go to school the next day because they weren't too sure what the consequences of that were going to be overall.
Oh, geez. Sure. What do they think would happen? Or I mean, I guess nobody really knew what to do. I guess everything was very bizarre, and that's why I say surreal, because it was kind of like unimaginable that would happen. So I think people were kind of wandering around and not really, it was just really weird. Like people didn't know what was going to happen. I guess in the particular area, this isn't really that relevant, but the particular area that I lived in is where I think the president flew as a result of if things went bad. So there were a lot of people memeing that like our city was going to get nuked. There were a bunch of stupid kids saying shit like that in class, but yeah.
Was that still in Nebraska?
Yeah, in Nebraska, we have an Air Force base called Offutt Air Force Base, and I guess it's one of the most central bases in the country. So apparently the president comes here because it's supposed to be safe for a little bit before he leaves. I don't know I'm not sure exactly, but I don't know.
And to the dude in chat that said it would have been 5 a.m. in Australia, no, it was about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Definitely wasn't 5 in the morning. Anyway, my parents remember, I don't obviously, I was too young. They remember like early news reports saying, you know, shit like people were arrested in New York at the time regarding like possible trucks with explosives and stuff. Was that ever something that you remember hearing at the time, or?
Oh shit. Are we going into the 9/11 memes?
I
don't remember anything concrete from those days. Again, I was very young. That day was very surreal, and it sounds bad, but I just used it as an excuse to play more games. Usually my parents would shout at me if I spent a lot of time on the computer, but they were really caught up in all the news that day. So I remember that I was able to play games like all day for the next few days because they were glued to the TV and shit, and they didn't bother me. That's like the most thing I remember.
I was fucking triggered as fuck as a kid because that was all that was on the news and every TV station for legitimately a week. So we got no brand new episodes of The Simpsons or nothing, man. It was fucking crazy.
Sure.
But just going forward as well, what opinions did that event sort of lay into you moving forward until you kind of went through your whole sort of change into a bit more of a less conservative person?
I mean, I was very, very, very conservative growing up. I mean, I guess I just kind of reinforced it. I mean, my parents were also very, very conservative, and that 9/11 reinforced their insanely conservative values. So, I mean, I probably contributed to some extent in being very conservative, I would imagine.
Like against just Muslims or against sort of everyone that wasn't American in general?
Like feelings about other people.
Yeah.
I guess it was strange because up until that point, I could be wrong. I was young, but I think up until that point, we really didn't talk about Muslims much. I think that, oh, dude, I might be horribly wrong on this. I just don't remember that much. But I feel like America, when I think of like the meme enemies of the state, like I'm usually thinking at that term it was like Russians and everything. We hadn't really gotten big on like Muslim terrorists and shit yet. I could be wrong on that, but that's what I remember. So I think that was the first time that the conversation started to like dramatically shift towards like Muslim terrorists and whatnot, or at least in my lifetime. I know there was like the first World Trade Center bombing, but I don't think that was as big of a deal, where they just blew some truck bombs up in like a basement or some shit. So,
Well, that's the same here. We'd never heard of Islamic terrorism until after 9/11 here in our media as well. Up until then, Russia and China North Korea were painted as like bigger enemies. So after the 9/11 thing is when our immigration and just our version of rednecks started to become a bit more of a vocal minority, I guess.
sure. What do you mean by that?
It wasn't until after that where a lot of conservative agendas started to push towards very anti-Muslim motives
gotcha.
and stuff. Have you ever done any research into conspiracies yourself?
Yeah, briefly, yeah, a little bit, but I mean, I followed because when I was in school, that 9/11, the 9/11 Truth Movement, Loose Change. I don't know if you remember that, and then Loose Change version 2 and all of that came out. So yeah, I mean, I did as much digging into it as an 8th grader, I guess, could, or not even. It would have been, I think I was a freshman in high school when Loose Change came out.
And how do you feel about the conspiracies?
I don't know. Most of them just seemed pretty baseless or very fantastical. It seemed like most of them required you to make quite a few assumptions in order for them to be true, and some very fantastical assumptions in order for them to be true. You know, things like the government has all this control over all this stuff and can fake so many things, but for some reason you're able to see it and figure it out by watching grainy video and whatnot. Like, yeah, that always made it harder for me to buy it.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Just from all the stuff I've watched, I don't know. Like, I go through phases. I don't believe that it's something that a government would orchestrate against its own people, I guess. But is it something that could have been let happen? Maybe. I don't know. Like I said, I go through phases. At the moment, I reckon the way it happened, it happened. I don't really believe anything alternative at the moment.
Sure. I mean, I guess like the Taliban or the Al Qaeda and everybody had like their reasons for what they did. I mean, what's his face? I can't want to call him Obama. Osama bin Laden, I mean, wrote a lot on the reasons why he attacked the United States. It's not like their motives were unclear or anything. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it makes sense for them to have done it, and it follows everything.
Does anything about like the physical abnormalities about it, like them finding passports in the rubble and all that, did any of that ever resonate as a possible negative to you?
I guess all of the other explanations made more sense than just trying to connect facts like that into proof that there was something else going on. Like the explanations of just, I don't know, I can't remember. I would have to go back and look at specifically what it is you're talking about, but it seemed like there was always a more reasonable explanation than somebody was obviously sneaking into the country and there was a cover up here.
Oh, well, in that specific reference, I was just referring to that they found the passports of the 19 or 20 people, however many it was, in the rubble of the trade centers that hijacked the planes.
Oh, sure. Oh, and the unlikeliness that those passports would have survived or whatever, I guess. Is
Yeah,
that,
how do those abnormalities sit with you?
I don't know. I would have to go and look at them in particular.
Fair enough. It's logical. But just on off topic, just because I was just reading a news article, do you have any idea how much trouble Trump stuff is causing here in Australia?
I really don't. I wouldn't think it would cause that much trouble though. What's going on?
It's causing a bit of a divide here with people. That we had the women's march thing that you guys had. We had a small replica here as well,
Mm-hmm.
and it seemed to be less about that and just more about just general left stuff and anti-Trump stuff. And yeah, it's really causing a lot of divide and a lot of debate in our universities and whatnot.
Yeah, I can imagine so. Sure.
But why? Like, is the general feeling of dread that great in America over him being president?
Kind of. I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, are you asking for like a general like? I don't know. That's like a really broad question. Wait, what's like the question in particular, or what is like
The
exact-
question in particular, yeah, has it really brought a drag down on the United States that he's president? Is it causing a lot of people legitimate grief from your unbiased opinion?
Oh yes, of course, definitely, most definitely, yeah. I think a lot of it is legitimate too. America made a lot of progress on certain issues over the past few years, and Trump seems to represent an undoing of a lot of that. So there's a lot of grief over that kind of stuff.
Oh, so it's just a general feeling of things like civil rights are taking a step back because of him.
Yes, massively, yeah.
Is there? I'm not very familiar with American policy at all. Is there a couple of things that will, at least one big one to you, that you'd be able to elaborate on?
I mean, you could probably talk about several things. The United States Supreme Court, very recently, within the past few years, I should know the exact year, within the past 2 years, I think, made it so that it was illegal for any state to make gay marriage illegal. So gays are allowed now by Supreme Court mandate, essentially, to get married all across the United States. That was a very big thing for the homosexual population in our country. That was really important. And Trump has talked about trying to nominate a justice to roll that back. Roe versus Wade was a large Supreme Court decision that made it so that women had the freedom to get an abortion in the United States. And Trump has talked about his desire to get something like that rolled back. The ACA, the Affordable Care Act, commonly known as Obamacare, is something that tried to push for getting health care as a right for every citizen. Even if you have pre-existing conditions, even if other things are going on, that was a really big thing that Trump is trying to roll back. Like, yeah, these are all issues that have very real impacts on people's daily lives, I think.
Well, all right, on healthcare, just because it's something we have here universally, and it's something I can talk a bit about length at.
Mm-hmm.
How come America never instated a proper healthcare system a while ago?
So
What's been the general defense to it?
So this is like a really important meme. I don't want to speak for Australia because I don't know anything about your country, but it's probably true. In Europe, it seems that you generally trust the government to get some things done. There is a general trust of the government. If the government says it's going to do something, or if you delegate something to the government, then you hope that the government can do it, right? In general, I'm speaking very, very vaguely. Obviously, there is corruption and you don't always trust the government to do everything, et cetera, et cetera. But for the most part, you have a general trust of the government. America was founded upon and bred on a fundamental distrust of the government. That means that the government is always wrong no matter what, and you always want to have the market solving problems. So with that kind of thing in mind, everything in the United States stems logically from there. So, for example, healthcare. If the free market can provide it, fuck the government. And basically everything stems from that. Unless the government absolutely has to provide it, we would much prefer to have the private industry provide every other thing, because fundamentally we want to keep the government out of as much as possible. That's kind of like our approach to most things. So that's why socializing healthcare, as it's called, is like a really, really
We
big
see
deal.
where this is going.
So is
We
that
did
kind
not
of
do
just to stay in a
9/11.
capitalist market
That was
and not
either
lean
actually
towards like
terrorists
a
or the
Marxist or
U.S.
socialist way of
government.
things?
We are not sure. We are not a terrorist
Like, is that sort of a
organization.
protection against that?
Yeah, kind of. It's just the general idea that the government needs to be involved in as little things as possible, and that the free market should solve as many problems as possible, essentially.
Because the general way it works here is that all of our taxation, we get a unique number called a tax file number.
Yep, we have
And
those as well.
essentially, does your income tax get automatically taken out every week? or is it something that you have to file in a lump sum?
It's automatically taken out every week.
Oh, I didn't know you guys had that. I thought you guys had the lump sum system at the end of the year.
Nope. So the way that it works in the U.S. is it's automatically taken out every week, but we still have to manually file tax forms at the end of the year. The government is not allowed to do it for us.
Huh. Okay. Well, anyway, generally the way it works here is that our tax gets paid out week by week. We do a ledger, which would probably be similar to there at the end, and we file our own papers with our incomes and whatnot. And then we kind of get a receipt back that shows where our tax went on a person-to-person basis. I don't know whether it's generic or whether or not some people's taxes generally do go more towards military spending or whatnot than others. And then in there, we have a thing called a Medicare levy, which Medicare is our system of healthcare, which typically gives us free access to doctors and a 70-30 split on medication, which works pretty well.
Okay. We have something kind of similar. We've got federal tax and state tax. Federal tax is for our entire country, and then state tax is for like our individual provinces. And then we have things called, it's called FICA, which is essentially our Medicare and our Social Security. Social Security is like a payout we get when we get older, and then Medicare is... Medicare is medical insurance for either old people or people that are extremely financially disparaged.
Just what you said there about state taxes. What's this meme I hear people talk about where apparently American state law can override federal law? What's the go with that?
So there, it's a very, very, very strange system. Basically, we have we've got 50 individual states that reside inside of our country. With the way that our Constitution works, technically the federal government can only do what is specifically delegated to it in the Constitution, and if it is not specifically delegated by the Constitution, then it's left to the states to decide. However, federal law is supposed to supersede state law. So if there is a federal law, it's supposed to be the be all and end all. However, there are certain states that have decided to have some state laws that contradict federal laws, and it gets a little confusing. So the most you've probably heard of this would be in terms of marijuana. Marijuana is something that is federally illegal in the United States. However, there are a lot of individual states that have decriminalized it. They've said it's okay. They've made it legal for the state. But a state officer, if an officer of the state comes, when I say of the state, I mean like of a province, comes to like, bully you or whatever, I don't know, whatever cops do, they can't get you in trouble for having marijuana. But if a federal officer comes by, which is an officer of the entire country comes by, then he can get you in trouble for using marijuana.
So if you guys have got systems like that, then how come a lot of your education and whatnot isn't done on a community level and it's very institutionalized and centralized? What's the mean with that?
It's actually not that centralized. We get in some ways we have federal funding, but in a lot of ways it's done on a state by state level. We've been trying to bring the education more in line federally. You might have heard of something called Common Core. That's that big push to get federal standards for education, but there's a lot of pushback against it. Because as Americans, generally we've been trained from birth to think of yourselves as people that belong to 50 independent states sometimes rather than belonging to an entire country. So you want as little federal government as possible and as much like individual community shit as possible. I'm sorry, Australia has states, not provinces. I don't realize that. I was just calling
we've got 5 states, 2 territories, I believe.
Okay,
Could be
gotcha.
wrong.
Okay.
I always fucking get it wrong,
All right,
even though I live here. Wow, I need to think of my next question now. So I'm getting these like occupations completely off the top of my head because I'm not too good with US geography. But is it fair to say that a lot of America's sort of occupation breakdown, you can say a lot of electricians come from Seattle, a lot of plumbers come from Arkansas. Is that something that sort of affects the education system over there? Where you can say that a certain occupation demographic and it being a majority pushes the education system to cater towards that?
I don't think I would say that. There are centers for education, but like you can like typically you go through up to we call it high school. It's grades 1 through 12, and that education is all gen ed, and then you don't specialize until grade 13 or when we would start college. You guys might call it university or uni or whatever. that's when you choose where to go in the country to choose what you want to study. And it's not uncommon for people to leave the state they're in to go to a different state and then start studying there if they for specializing. There are states that cater more, or rather there are institutions or colleges or universities that cater more to certain types of learning, but people generally will travel to those if they want to get that type of education.
All right, I get you. So there are states that are more renowned for things, but when it comes to general education, it's pretty standard.
Yeah, it should be. It varies a little from place to place, but yeah, grades 1 through 12, year 1 through 12 should be gen ed pretty much. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, that got way off topic from 9/11. Jesus. So do you think that there could ever be a stretch in the future where we do find out some more information, or not really?
At this point, nothing would surprise me. I haven't seen anything convincing yet, but it really wouldn't surprise me if we find that out. In terms of like state surveillance, people don't recognize this now and people take it for granted now, but there were a lot of things that people said pre-Snowden that people said were fucking crazy conspiracy theories, but post-Snowden, it was actually far worse than even some of the craziest conspiracy theorists said. So, I mean, if we did find out something, I don't know if I would be that surprised, to be honest.
Can you give an example on that? Because I'm not really too well versed in Snowden's
yeah,
leaks.
so like people would say things like the government is probably spying on you and maybe the government is keeping you in databases and blah, blah, blah. And people would kind of say that that's kind of like crazy, funny shit. And then we find out that the NSA might literally be logging like every single piece of metadata from cell phone calls, like on a warrant list, like no warrants, like just on every single citizen, like that they have these massive databases where all of this information is being kept. Like basically the NSA pretty much has like... it seems like infinite access to everything going on the internet without warrants and without oversight or supervision.
You don't have a problem. You have a problem with them retaining metadata.
Yeah, so again, this goes along, and this might be fundamental differences in beliefs, but for Americans, there were a few really, really important principles that our country was built on. One of those was freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and another one of those is the right to due process. So our court system is supposed to be one of the greatest things of the United States of America. It's the fact that every single person, no matter what they did, was able to get their day in court, in a public, speedy court. No private courts, no behind doors bullshit or anything like that, right? A public, speedy trial. That was one of your constitutionally guaranteed rights. What this means is that in America, we have a lot of protections to travel from state to state unburdened or unencumbered or whatever by officers, that where unwarranted search and seizure is literally illegal as a federal mandate. So what this means is that I could drive through a state and I could be going 100 miles an hour or something, and a cop could pull me over for speeding or something, and I could have 50 million pounds of marijuana in my back seat, where it's not visible, and the cop could ask me, do you have any marijuana in your car? And I can say no, or I don't want to answer that, fuck off, and he can't bully me anymore. He can give me the speeding ticket, and then I can go on. But unless he has probable cause, he cannot search my car. I can lie to him, I can tell him to fuck off, I don't have to stay anywhere he doesn't want me to, I don't have to be nice to him, I don't have to give him my name. Well, if he pulls you over for speeding, you do, right? But if a cop stops you on the street, let's say that you're hanging out somewhere, and a cop stops you, he's like, hey, I'm just seeing what you're up to, what's your name? I'm gonna say, fuck off, I don't want to talk to you, and I can walk away, right? That's supposed to be a really big part of American freedom. When you talk about warrantless wiretaps, what you're essentially doing is you're giving the kind of the police state the ability to tap your shit and spy on you and develop and form warrants about you without ever getting an order from a judge to do so. Does it make sense, like why that's like a really big...
Yeah, it makes sense. But do you believe that they have the right to retain metadata on specific results?
Oh, yes,
search
absolutely.
engines and whatnot?
Before Snowden, no, I didn't, because that seems insane. But after Snowden, yeah, it seems so. Yeah, that they keep a ton of metadata about a ton of citizens, and that they store a lot more information than they probably should be allowed to. Yeah, for sure.
Well, in your opinion, what would be the appropriate action? Let's say you're having a fucking talk with someone like me, and in a heated argument, you go and they make some wicked accusation about nuclear weapons, and you go Google it, and you go Google, how does a nuclear weapon work? And you get put on a watch list. What do you think should be the appropriate repercussions for yourself for searching that?
I mean, in the United States of America, there should be no repercussions unless there's probable cause. They shouldn't be allowed to log information about you and follow you around and try to form like warrants and whatnot on you there. The reason why this is given is because it could be extrapolated into many abuses. In a perfect world, this system works perfectly. Obviously, if somebody's going to go search for nukes or whatever, then the government could catch you, and that's great. But what happens is these powers end up getting abused. For instance, if you look up, hold on one second.
I show all the girls at work Destiny's debates. I think it will work out for me. Bonus meme, potato.
Okay, sorry. So, for instance, in the CIA, there is a problem. Actually, I don't think it's just the CIA. I think it's the NSA, actually. There was a big problem where people would go and look up information about their crushes, about people that they were in love with or whatever, that agents would go up and they would access secret databases to find out more information about people that they're in love with for whatever reason, for dating purposes or whatever, just to spy on people. Or that information could also potentially be abused. Let's say that there was a political opponent of Trump that had access to these databases, and they didn't want Trump to be president, and they were able to blackmail him because of something that they found that the government shouldn't have access to. That's probably a bad thing. Or to use another real life example, the wide amounts of information that we collect about people applying for security clearances, that database was compromised by the Chinese, and that information, I believe, now is openly on the market. If you go to the right sites, you can download every piece of medical information on any American that has ever applied for any type of security clearance in the United States. It was like tens of millions of individuals' accounts info that was compromised.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I've heard a lot of people make an argument when it comes to data retention and not, and I just want to hear what your argument on it is. There's a difference between data and information. Data is information with no context.
You're talking about meta? You're talking about metadata?
Yeah.
I mean,
specifically.
The problem is, like, if it's information that you could never use that's kind of worthless, then why log the information at all?
So under that context, you would say that it's acceptable for people of lesser importance to have information tracked about them as opposed to politicians or whatnot?
Well, I don't think anybody, I guess fundamentally, I don't think anybody should have information tracked about them unless somebody obtains a proper warrant to do so. Yeah.
Does that stretch as far as the way Google, has their location services?
Nope, it's different for Google and Facebook because you voluntarily give your information to these companies. That's all on you. If Google has information or Facebook has information about you, that's usually because you've put it out there.
And under US law, are Google or Facebook or whatever allowed to release that to authorities if they believe you've been involved in something?
So the way that it works in the United States is if you believe that somebody has the potential, let's say that I go on a forum and I see somebody's posting all day, I want to nuke somebody, blah, blah, blah. How do I get these bombs? What do I do? They're posting all day long. And let's say that you think as some type of federal agent that this person represents a very real threat to somebody in the United States. We have a process where you would go to a judge and you would get something called a subpoena. What the subpoena does is the subpoena allows you to go to a private organization and tell them, hey, I want information about this person. Here is a warrant signed by a judge. You must turn over this information. And then that's how they would get the information. For real life examples of this, I don't know if you heard, but there was a big deal where the federal government wanted Apple to put backdoors into their iPhones so that they could access locked iPhones of criminals. And Apple refused to do it because they thought that it would be too big of a compromise of user rights. So rather than having to get a subpoena from Apple to do anything, they just wanted Apple to build a backdoor in so they could access anybody's device at any time, right?
Yeah, we definitely heard about that here. When it comes to that sort of stuff and tracking metadata and whatnot, I'm neither here nor there about metadata. If they can see that at this IP address accessed an image file at this time, I don't really think that's pushing it too far, but I think the context of that data can be a lot more dangerous as far as civics are concerned. That's just me personally.
Sure. Yeah, and again, keep in mind that none of this has to do with the specific thing. It's more like how far can this be stretched and abused? Again, because remember, as an American, you have a fundamental distrust of the government, so you're always looking at what is the worst case scenario that the government could do with this information. That's how you approach most issues of giving the federal government power.
Sorry, just off topic because it popped in my head. Last year, I actually came to the States for about a month and a bit. And when I was in Texas, our Uber driver was telling us that apparently in Texas, all the speed cameras are disabled because they're not constitutional.
Kind of. It gets more complicated. Every state has their own constitution, I think. Or no, I know every state has their own constitution. I don't think that federally, all across the United States, they haven't ruled speeding cameras illegal, but in some states they have ruled them as being against the state constitution.
Or what's the American argument for no speed cameras? Because speed cameras are enforced at a federal level here.
Oh fuck! I would have to get I would have to get an extra lawyer on to ask that. What was the reason why speed cameras weren't legal? I don't remember. I would have to.
The only thing that kind of rings in my mind logically is that you're charging the car, the object,
Second
and
month,
not
baby.
the person behind it.
Oh, no,
unless they can visibly identify the person.
No, it had to do with some kind of fundamental American thing, like whether it was like denying you your due process or something. I don't remember. It was some fundamental, the right. Oh, maybe it was. Somebody pointed this out in chat. And I think I've read this before, but I could be wrong. In the United States of America, in our court systems, you always have the right to face your accuser. You always have the right to face your accuser. So maybe the cameras were a violation of that right to face your accuser. Everybody is saying that. I don't know if that was the actual reason, but that's what a lot of people are spamming. So maybe it was.
Sorry, just one sec. I'm just looking up something
Sure.
to make a point on.
This was a big deal because a lot of people argue that this right shouldn't extend in certain cases because in child rape cases, a lot of the times the child doesn't want to face the accuser in court. And if the child is making the accusation or if the state is on behalf of the child for a criminal court case, it's very awkward to have a child have to literally confront the person that, raped them or molested them, and leads to some really awkward scenarios. I think federally, I think they've allowed it so you can have a screen up or something. I don't remember exactly how they deal with those, though.
So in the US, you can't have, just for example, the state of New York versus Bob as a court case?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, why?
Just because what you were sounding then sounded like direct authorities didn't really have the prosecution power. It was the individual on behalf.
Direct authorities didn't have the individual. Oh, well, like for civil cases, it's typically individuals that file them, that push for them. So like if you stole a little bit of money from me, like $500 or something, like that would be a civil case. Criminal federal cases. And then there's even criminal state cases. Fuck, dude, that shit is really complicated. Wait, what exactly was the question again? I'm sorry.
The question was, if I had to simplify it down, I guess would be, who does the burden of evidence fall on, the accuser or the defendant?
Oh, always the accuser. Always. You're always innocent until proven guilty. 100%.
Do you have that beyond reasonable doubt meme over there?
So it's two ways. In civil court cases, I'm not a legal dude, so I take everything I say with a grain of salt. In civil court cases, so these are not criminal court cases. So this is stuff like minor thievery, things that aren't like big felons, huge memes, right? You need to present a preponderance of evidence. That means that it needs to look like pretty obvious that like, okay, this guy probably stole some shit, right? You have a preponderance of evidence. It looks pretty reasonable, right? For criminal cases, so things involving like rape or felony assault or like felony theft, armed robbery, murder, stuff like that, you need to provide evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. The standard of evidence necessary for a criminal case is much higher than the standard of evidence necessary for a civil case.
Okay, so the same standard isn't held between civic court and criminal court?
No, the criminal court is a much higher standard.
I could be wrong with our law here, but I do think that there are certain severities within our criminal court where civic standards do hold up to a certain level of criminal court. And that kind of makes things a little bit strange sometimes.
Sure. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to anything having to do with Australian court, so.
Have you personally had any legal things before, like that you've challenged, like speeding tickets or shit like that?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I got caught. I got memed. Yeah, I mean, I've gotten speeding tickets before. I got pulled over once for driving under a suspended license, and that was a pretty big meme. That was my most court case experience.
Speaking of driving without a license meme, all right, so a couple of weeks ago, I'll say back in November, I reported my wallet as stolen, which obviously would have had my license in it. And I drove without my license for a good month and a half before getting pulled over and, asked, where's your license? Mm-hmm. And I eventually got a ticket for not having the physical license card. And the meme that really frustrated me was that when he, issued me the ticket, he said, the fine will be sent to the home address that's on your license. And it's like, what kind of fucking meme's that?
What do you mean?
Like, because I didn't have the official Roads and Maritime Authority card that says I can drive a vehicle, but I had my passport for ID. But at the same time, he's giving me a fine for no license, yet he's saying he's going to send me the fine to the address that's on my license.
Oh, sure.
It's one of those, outdated memes. Do you guys have that trouble there where some laws were created before certain technologies and now they're sort of redundant laws?
I'm not sure in that same way. I'm sure there are some, but I can't think of any. I mean, like sometimes when you're dealing with the government, it's really irritating. You have to get things like mailed to you or by fax or something because they haven't updated their systems to be like internet friendly yet or something. I mean, that happens occasionally.
Fair enough. Are you allowed to drive between different states with a different state's license?
Yes, our integration of most rights are recognized. Most states have, there's a name for this, like mutual recognition or some shit. I don't know what the exact name is. But most states will recognize the licensings and whatnot of other states, although there are some variations. It depends on what specifically you're talking about.
This is going to sound like a really dumb question, but which road rules do you abide by when you're in a different state? Because here there's a lot of argument between whether or not you abide to the road rules in the state you got your license as compared to the state that you're currently in.
Oh, it's always the state you're in. Same thing with like I have a CCW, which is a concealed carry weapons permit. The rules that you abide by are always the rules of the state that you're in, never the rules of your own state. And most state laws, actually, I don't want to say all, but most state laws will be doing that. There's things called, for instance, for recording, consent to record. Some states are one-party states, some states are two-party states. That means that in a one-party state, I can record without telling you because I just need my party, one party to know. And in two-party states, you have to inform the person that you're recording them. If you've ever listened to American TV or you've ever heard a phone call with an American telemarketer where they're like, just to let you know, this call is being recorded. The reason why they say that is because state law oftentimes requires you to notify the party you're recording them. But whether or not you're in a one-party or two-party state, it matters what state you're in. That's the important part. Now, when you're dealing with interstate things, that gets a little bit more complicated, but the federal government has a ruling there because you have the Interstate Commerce Clause, which allows the federal government to make rulings on things that happen, state by state. Or that impact multiple states.
So as you know, our gun laws here in Australia are like really fucking strict. There's a lot of restrictions on what guns, what ammunition.
Oh yeah, especially after and all that. Yeah.
So explain to me what the difference is between a concealed weapons permit and just owning a gun.
So in the United States, you can have a in the United States, so there's multiple things here. You've got open carry, you've got weapons permits, and you've got concealed carry. I think that in most states, if you have a weapons permit, then you're automatically allowed to open carry a firearm. Open carry means that you can have it out and open. If you're carrying it with you, it has to be visible. But as long as it's visible, like everything is fine. Usually that's the easy one to get. And then states will have a level of licensing further called a concealed carry weapons permit. And a concealed carry weapons permit allows you to carry a firearm concealed. That means that in your vehicle, you could hide it in your dashboard or under your car, and you can also carry one on your person in a holster that conceals it from general public knowledge.
Okay, so America's a very when it comes your safety, your responsibility sort of theme.
In terms of the right to own firearms is something that's actually in the we call it the Bill of Rights, but it's basically we have ways of changing our Constitution via amendments, and the first 10 amendments that were thrown into the Constitution in order to get everybody to sign it, of those first 10 amendments, literally the Second Amendment protects your right to bear arms as a citizen, which is why a lot of Americans make a really big deal about gun ownership, because it's literally written like right into the founding document, like is being necessary to ratify it.
Well, when you carry a weapon, I don't know whether you take them out in public and carry them or whether or not you just do it on your own property. But I would assume that it's for your own safety. But how do you feel about assuming the responsibility of the safety of others around you that might not have a weapon? Would you ever fire if someone else came under danger?
I don't know. I would really have to think about it. It would really depend on the situation. I mean, I typically carry a weapon for personal protection. I don't know if I would ever jump out and be involved in a situation that I'm not directly involved in. I don't know. It would have to be I don't know. I would have to, it would really be on a case-by-case basis. I don't know if you could make like a general rule of thumb for something like that.
Well, just my feeling on concealed carry. I feel like that if everyone has a gun, the value of the one criminal holding a gun gets pretty nulled down pretty low, because there's a lot of deterrent for them not to fire because everyone else has a visible gun that's around them. So where do you sort of lay the moral ground in the sense that a criminal might open fire on someone because they couldn't see the weapon that you have concealed?
Well, I mean, if you were open carrying, they would just shoot at you first because they'd know you were the one with the gun, no? I don't think anybody should ever open carry a firearm. I mean, if that's kind of the direction that... I think that most firearms should be concealed carried.
Okay, yeah, I get you. So it puts a bit more of a target on you.
Yeah, well, it puts a target on you, and it also makes people uncomfortable. Even in America, as much as we say we're pro-gun, people in general are pretty uncomfortable when you're carrying a gun. So if you have that gun and everybody can see it, it just makes people uncomfortable. And especially if you have a firearm on you, the last thing you want is people to be nervous or jittery around you.
I just want to just quickly look up the stats for the percentage of the population that carries a firearm in the US quickly.
I don't know the stats of the population that carries it, but I know that there are over 300 million firearms in the United States. That's one of the reasons why we don't really talk much about banning them here. Well, we talk about it, but it probably wouldn't accomplish much, just because there are so many guns.
Yeah, I understand that.
If you're a responsible gun owner, there are 4 key rules to firing a gun. Nobody knows them anymore, apparently. But the 4 important rules of firing a gun, actually, I probably don't remember well. 1 is you always treat a gun as it's loaded. 2 is you never point it at an object unless you're ready to destroy it. 3 is that you're always aware of what's beyond your target. And then 4 is to always check it, always rack it when it's given to you. Fuck, I don't remember all 4. Don't point it at something unless you want to destroy something. Always assume the gun is loaded. Always be aware of what's beyond your target. Fuck, what is the 4th one? Oh, fuck, I'm forgetting it.
Holy fuck, go turn in your gun now, dude.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, yeah. Always keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire. I always associate that one with the don't point a gun at it until you're ready to shoot. But the I think it's the 3rd. I don't know how people order them. But one of the really important things is when you're firing a firearm, you're always supposed to be aware of what's beyond your target. In movies, there's generally a lack of care about people in the background, but in real life, you can't just start opening fire on somebody in a public place because you think they're a danger. So when you ask me that question, like what would you do if someone else was in danger, it's really awkward if you have a firearm to like insert yourself in a situation and then draw that and just aim it at somebody because there are probably civilians beyond them. You're probably not really in a safe area to start firing. Like it gets really strange at that point. Like you might end up being more of a danger to the people around you than the criminal himself is, you know?
I'm just going to read these stats. Tell me if you think they're right. An estimated 55 million Americans own guns. Does that sound right?
Probably, yeah. Sounds a little high, but sure.
Between 300,000 and 600,000 guns are stolen each year.
Yeah, it's possible.
And handguns are the majority of the weapons.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
So back with that stolen gun thing, is there any register when you go buy a weapon that associates a weapon's what's a car got, a VIN number that associates something like a VIN number to your name?
Yeah, every gun has a serial number on it, or at least it's supposed to. If you don't have a I think if a police officer, someone should correct me, I should know this having a gun. I'm pretty sure that if you file the serial number off of a firearm, that firearm becomes an illegal firearm. That you're like, and that's a common thing that criminals will do. So it's harder to trace guns, but you're not allowed to legally file off like the serial number. Like that's important. It's to keep track of who owns what, I think.
So I'd assume that any ammunition you buy would get registered as well to you?
No, ammunition I don't believe is not. I don't think I've ever had to show ID or anything to buy ammunition. No, I don't think so.
Okay, so I'm almost certain here that is how they've caught serial killers in the past, because the serial numbers of bullets are assigned to that weapon or to that person's license or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not the same here.
Sorry, I'm just rolling up a cigarette.
No problem. Well, that's pretty bad for you, dude, but okay. Wait, rolling up a cigarette? Do you roll your own tobacco?
Yeah, I roll my own tobacco because a packet of already made or tailored cigarettes here is $30 a packet.
Oh, holy shit. Is that a sin tax? Is that what they call it? Do they call it that over there?
No, it goes towards our Medicare.
Okay. $30 for a pack of like 20 cigarettes or whatever?
25, and then it's about anywhere between 23 and 25 for a pack of 20.
Damn.
Yeah, I was a fucking heavy chain smoker when I was in the US.
Yeah, not
Buying
anymore.
lights for less than $10.
Sure.
When are you gonna start playing more StarCraft?
I don't know, dude. Someday, when I get Masters in
Unmute
League.
me please, buddy. I'll never play hot potato in
Fuck,
chat
League's been
again.
around for so long and I've never
Bonus
played
meme.
it.
Trump.
Just
Bar
never
trumped.
Yeah, you're not missing
play
much.
some Dota. Play some Dota, man.
That's probably never gonna happen. But maybe someday. But probably not.
You still got the VW? I think you had a Polo or a Golf. I don't remember.
Golf. Or a GTI. It's like a Golf that's a little faster, I guess.
Yeah, we've got that here as well. You got the DSG or the proper man spec manual.
No, I use the manual one.
Ah, good. Fucking new car soon. You gonna get a new car soon?
I've thought about it, but my current car runs pretty well, so I'll probably keep it as long as it runs. It's ran well for 10 years. I don't know. I'm really Jewish with my money. I don't like to waste money, so.
What? You got a 10-year-old GTI? What fucking year model?
2006.
Oh fuck, I'm retarded.
It's all right. Yeah, it's a 2006.
Ah, yeah, these ones.
I think it was when they first started the Mark 6, but yeah.
Yeah, they my friend bought one of those fucking a couple of years ago, and within 6 months of owning it, he lost his license for 12 months
Jesus fuck, how?
by doing 200 kilometers an hour in a 60-kilometer-an-hour zone.
Oh shit. I might have I had a similar ticket in the United States, 200. Oh, actually it was even more. I think I was going, what did I say? I was going I don't even remember how fast it was. It was really fast. I'm surprised I didn't get thrown in jail. It was really fast. It was I think it might have been around 220 or 230 km an hour. But that ticket that I got when I told you I'd gotten arrested because I was driving under a suspended license, when I got that ticket and I paid it, I didn't realize that they had suspended my license when I paid that ticket because they didn't inform me that that was part of the punishment. So when I got pulled over at a later date for speeding, I found out that my license was revoked. That's how I got into that whole mess. Yeah.
Holy shit, fuck that. How much was the fine, just out of curiosity, or if you don't want to share?
It was pretty expensive, but yours are probably more expensive. It was like $550 USD. I don't.
550, man. The one that my friend got was 4,500.
Yeah. The fines in the United States are kind of a joke. And, yeah.
Why is the fine structure so fucking weak there?
I don't know.
That's a very, very weak fine for the offense.
Yeah.
No-
I mean, it's a
no
big speeding
offense.
ticket fine in the United States, but yeah. But yeah,
So when you
everything
guys
in
go
driving in the United States is much, much, much different than driving around the rest of the world. Like you can get a driver's license in the United States in some states without ever even taking a driving test. Like it's pretty insane. The driving stuff here is really, really crazy.
So does that mean there's a lot of shit drivers there, or?
Oh yeah, there are a lot of horrible fucking drivers here. Very horrible drivers with very horrible driving habits. Very, very bad drivers. Oof, yeah.
The things I see the most from American driving, I see the videos of the people that just go by their new Mustangs, thrash it around the corner, and fishtail the whole way up the street till they hit something.
A lot of people that buy cars like that have never drove a rear-wheel drive car before, and oversteer or understeer, one of those things. The way that those cars lose control is so much different than a front-wheel drive car. And most weaker cars are probably front-wheel drive, and the stronger cars seem to be rear-wheel drive. So if you floor it in one of those and you lose control of it, yeah, those people end up just flying off the road usually.
Yeah, we've got a fuck ton of rear-wheel drives here in Australia because our market is really only in the last 20 years has either been Ford or General Motors. So it's either that or that. But recently, Toyota's taken over pretty big here, and Audi as well.
Sure.
Maybe if you guys upped your minimum wage to our minimum wage, you could afford the more expensive speeding tickets, you know?
Maybe. They don't scale our tickets or fines here by income either. Everything is really weird in terms of how our criminal justice system in the United States is very much favored towards more wealthy people. If you're wealthier, it plays this entirely different game.
Do you know what our minimum wage is?
Isn't it like fuck, I knew this at one point in time. Isn't it like $22 an hour or something? AUD?
It can be depending on what award you fall under. So, for example, people that work with metal, people that work with wood, all have a different minimum wage. But the general sort of average, if you average it out between retail to metalworking to whatever, it's about $18.90 an hour.
Okay, gotcha.
I wish your fucking election stuff would stop spilling over into this country, though, because our politicians are just cucks, really.
Yeah,
And,
ours
they're
are too,
spending-
so.
I don't know, man, with the guy that, fires a
What
defense
model is
attorney.
my
Is he really a
4-month-old
cuck?
subscription?
Wait, what are you referring to?
Trump, didn't he fucking, not the defense attorney?
The Attorney
fucking-
General.
The Attorney General, that's the one.
Yeah.
Would you call that man a cuck?
I mean, yeah. I don't know. He didn't get the ruling that he wanted, so he just fired the dude and put his own guy in place. It's kind of a scary thing, and
Yeah, when I think about it, you think there'd be something in place to stop that from happening, eh?
yeah, it's very complicated.
Do you guys have something above the president or a group of people above the president?
So, nothing is above the president, but basically you have we have three different parts of the government. We have the presidential branch, which is the president and his cabinet. You have the executive branch. Wait, oh my God, I'm sorry. The executive branch is the president. I'm sorry, did I call it the presidential branch? You've got the executive branch, that is the president and his cabinet. You've got the legislative branch, which is Congress. And then you have the judicial branch, which is our Supreme Court.
Okay, I see.
And all of these
Yeah.
three are theoretically equivalent, although different types have stronger powers. But they all kind of check the other in different ways.
Sorry, you lagged out there, like right at the end of your sentence. What did you say?
Oh, none of these are really above or below one another. They all kind of check each other in different ways.
Okay.
I guess you could argue that the legislative branch is probably the strongest, but only if everybody is willing to vote the same way, and it's very rare that that will happen. But because they can
Is there any-
technically overrule the president, but then again, the judicial branch can overrule both of them with Supreme Court rulings. So I don't know.
Is there like any fucking government over the world that you prefer their system to than your own, or?
I don't really know enough about other systems to say that. I think that our system has problems, but I really don't know enough about other forms of government. Not really. I can't say, so I don't know. I mean, I like ours in theory, I think.
Well, all fucking most countries, mine included, is in theory is electing lawmakers to represent the Constitution, more or less, or our monarch.
Wait, say that again?
So both of our countries is that we, vote lawmakers in to represent a constitution or a monarch. That's really all our nations are, really.
Sure.
So do you think 9/11 was an inside job?
Probably not.
What's the most fucking ridiculous thing you've heard someone say about 9/11 besides 22, your mother?
Besides 22, your mother?
Yeah, 22, your mother.
Wait, what does that mean?
That fucking dude you had on New Year's Eve.
Fuck, wait, I don't remember. Am I missing a meme?
The Illuminati dude.
Oh. I don't know. What's the most ridiculous thing? I don't know. Aren't they all? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Not
I
really,
think
man.
I'm lost.
I think there's a difference in conspiracies between, like, the United States let it happen and the whole thing was CGI.
Maybe. I don't know. I guess I haven't tried to rank them in terms of craziness.
Wow, we really put thoughts into different things, don't we?
Yeah, maybe.
You think, don't it? Or is it, doesn't it? I don't know. Sorry, phone just rang.
Wait, if you're just wrong?
No, my phone just rang.
Oh.
Wrong. Yeah, I've got the reason why I'm even bothering is because I'm home from work. I've got like a chest infection, so watch some streams,
Sure.